Massive mining trucks just rolled into Burkina Faso. Gold production is exploding. The government has seized control of key mines. Farmers are suddenly receiving millions in equipment. Something big is happening in this quiet West African nation, and almost no one is talking about it. Is this the birth of Africa's next economic powerhouse? Let's find out. Burkina Faso has just pulled off a quiet revolution. Not through war, not through protest, but through infrastructure, industry, and an audacious plan to reclaim its destiny. In early 2025, a convoy of cutting-edge mining equipment arrived in the country under tight security. The cargo included industrial-scale crushers, autonomous drilling rigs, or haulers, and satellite-linked monitoring systems. Not the kind of tools you expect in a land previously dominated by informal gold panning and unstable contracts. These weren't small upgrades. This was an industrial leap, and it signaled something far bigger than just an increase in production. Almost simultaneously, two major mining players, Australia's West African Resources, LIT, and Seoul Resources International, LIT, announced accelerated timelines for gold production at multiple sites across the country. Within weeks, estimates confirmed, Burkina Faso's gold output would jump to 55.7 metric tons by the end of 2025, a 4% increase that would consolidate its status as the fourth largest gold producer on the continent. But even more seismic than the machines or the production figures was the political earthquake quietly rumbling underfoot. On June 12, 2025, the Burkina government formally completed the nationalization of 5 major gold mining assets, a move no one saw coming this fast. These weren't defunct or unprofitable operations. They were active revenue-generating mines previously owned by foreign companies. The state's mining company SOPAMIB now holds controlling shares and management rights. No compensation deals have been disclosed. No Western intervention has reversed the move. It simply happened, and then the fund started moving. In a stunning display of how serious the country is about using its resources differently, reports confirmed that over $179 million from these newly nationalized mines had already been redirected into agriculture equipment purchases for rural regions. Across dozens of provinces, farmers began receiving tractors, harvesters, and irrigation kits, not as loans, but as state-provided upgrades. For many, it was their first time touching mechanized tools. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso's services sector quietly became the top contributor to GDP growth, outpacing even mining and agriculture. Public administration, transport, retail, and repair services all surged. The connection, government revenue from nationalized mines has been recycled directly into the domestic economy. Wages increased, infrastructure was repaired, businesses reopened. All of this culminated in a dramatic economic shift. Burkina Faso's GDP growth hit 4.9% in 2024, up from 3.0% the previous year. Even more telling, the extreme poverty rate dropped by 3 full points, hitting 23.2%, with the biggest gain seen in rural and formerly neglected areas. What's even more intriguing is that this transformation is not backed by the West. There is no IMF structural adjustment program forcing austerity. There are no press releases from Paris. This is homegrown, funded by Burkina Gold, driven by Burkina decisions executed on Burkina terms. It's not just about economics. It's about philosophy. For decades, the country mined gold, but the people remained poor. Now, for the first time, the gold seems to be working for them. Roads are appearing, machines are rolling, cash is flowing. But is this model sustainable? And what exactly is happening behind the scenes with the mining sector that made all this possible? What we're witnessing in Burkina Faso isn't just a production increase. It's a full-scale rewiring of how an entire sector operates. From the ground beneath the miners' boots to the bank accounts funding national projects. To understand the economic explosion, we must look directly at the heart of the operation, the mines themselves. Until recently, Burkina Faso's mining sector was a tale of extraction without transformation. Foreign companies owned most of the large industrial sites, operated with favorable tax regimes, and exported profits abroad. While some royalties made their way into government accounts, the deeper value, management control, reinvested capital, and knowledge transfer remained out of reach. That's what changed in 2025. The creation and aggressive expansion of SOPIB, the socio-participation minier Burkina, was not a bureaucratic experiment. It was a strategic response to decades of lost value. SOP was given authority to acquire controlling interests in major gold mines, monitor joint ventures, and supervise the technical and financial operations of strategic mining assets. In a country once relegated to passive royalty collection, this was a dramatic leap in a sovereign mining governance. But nationalization was only the beginning. The state began enforcing new local content laws, requiring mining companies to source materials, labor, and services domestically wherever possible. This policy didn't just create jobs. It forced a reorientation of the mining economy to connect with a broader Burkina market. Machine maintenance firms popped up near mining zones. Catering and logistics companies hired locals to support field operations. Vocational centers began training welders, mechanics, and safety inspectors specific to mining needs. The sector stopped being an isolated bubble. It became an economic engine. Another major shift came in the handling of artisanal and small-scale gold mining, ASGM. Historically informal, underregulated, and often exploited by shadow networks, ASGM was brought under formal government oversight. Registration drives began. Mobile gold buying centers were introduced to prevent smuggling. Tax and incentive structures were reformed to encourage transparency. As a result, the government now collects a massive share of its gold revenues from the very miners who were once invisible to the system. And while international investors raised eyebrows at the pace of nationalization, the government didn't shut the door on them. It simply redrew the rules. Joint venture models are now the preferred structure. Foreign companies can still operate, but the majority ownership, licensing authority, and strategic direction stay with the Burkina-based state. This hybrid approach has attracted cautious optimism. With clarity, risk-sharing, and local reinvestment now mandatory, foreign firms are beginning to adapt rather than flee. What makes all of this more than just paperwork is that the reforms are visible on the ground. Satellite images show expanded mining pits and new transport corridors linking mines to processing hubs. Engineers who once worked for the machinery may have arrived this year, but the deeper machinery, the system of ownership, policy, and discipline is what fuels this economic transformation. But what happens when this gold-fueled engine turns its power toward agriculture? When a country turns gold into food, that's not economics, that's alchemy. But in Burkina Faso, it's starting to become a reality. The mining boom didn't just stay buried in extraction sites. Instead, its profits are being strategically reinvested to revolutionize one of the most overlooked sectors in African development, agriculture. For decades, Burkina Faso's farming sector was trapped in a cycle of subsistence and vulnerability. Rainfall determined survival. Tools were basic. Irrigation was a luxury. And markets, if they existed, were fragmented and distant. Farmers worked hard but barely escaped hunger. Despite agriculture employing the vast majority of the population, it contributed relatively little to GDP and even less to national dignity. That's what's changing now, and not by accident. With new mining revenues flowing into state accounts, the government made a deliberate pivot. Use extractive wealth to unlock productive sovereignty. In early 2025, it launched one of the country's most ambitious rural investment programs yet, funneling millions of dollars into agricultural mechanization, distribution, and innovation. And unlike past programs funded by international donors with strings attached, this initiative was fully financed by Burkina Faso's gold earnings. Within months, over $179 million worth of modern agricultural equipment, including tractors, threshers, irrigation pumps, and grain storage units, was distributed across multiple provinces. The impact was instant. Fields once tilled by hand began to see machine-furrowed rows. Water, once a limiting factor, could now be controlled and stored. Yield predictions began to climb. For many farming communities, this was the first time in living memory that they received state support without bureaucratic delays or foreign conditions. But it wasn't just about hardware. The government also launched training programs through rural extension offices, pairing equipment delivery with technical literacy. Farmers learned how to operate, maintain, and optimize their machines. Agricultural cooperatives were expanded and encouraged to take leadership in distribution. In short, the state didn't just send equipment. It created ecosystems of support, ensuring the tools led to transformation, not dependency. Another game share was the expansion of land under cultivation. With equipment now available, previously abandoned or degraded plots could be reclaimed. Regions once left due to labor shortages or distance from water sources were brought back into production. As a result, Burkina Faso is not only increasing output, but it's reclaiming land sovereignty, reducing its reliance on food imports from neighboring countries. And while this transformation is still in its early stages, the numbers are already moving. Agriculture contributed 1.6 percentage points to GDP growth in 2024, a rare feat for a sector typically battered by weather and neglect. Even more significant is its social impact. Rural employment is rising, food prices are stabilizing, and extreme poverty is falling fastest in farming communities, proving that gold, when redirected, can grow more than wealth. It can grow futures. There's also a deeper political undercurrent at play. By investing in farmers, the government is restoring trust in the state. For a nation where the rural population often felt abandoned by central power, this investment serves as a statement. You are seen and your work matters. That's a powerful message in a region where coups and instability often follow marginalization. More profoundly, Burkina Faso is sketching out a new development model, not relying on Western grants, not shaped by IMF conditionalities, and not stuck in extractive dependency. Instead, it's a self-feeding loop. Gold powers agriculture. Agriculture stabilizes society, and society supports continued growth. But how does this agricultural revival feed into the nation's wider economy? The shops, the cities, the youth? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on the African New Files, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. While gold fuels the machines and agriculture nourishes the soil, another force is rising quieter, faster, and more complex. It doesn't glitter like gold or grow from the ground, but it's becoming the beating heart of Burkina Faso's economic engine, the services sector. The recent growth in Burkina Faso is not just a rural story. It's now echoing across towns and cities where everything from transport to technology is accelerating. Public administration, logistics, retail, communication, finance, and repair services have emerged as the largest contributors to GDP growth in 2024, adding +2.6 percentage points to national output, more than agriculture and mining combined. This is not a coincidence. It's the result of chain reactions triggered by the mining and agricultural expansions. When farmers have more income, they spend more. When state agencies have greater fiscal capacity from gold revenues, they hire more and build more infrastructure. When logistics routes open to serve mining sites and farming markets, transport services blossom. Suddenly, a dusty highway becomes a lifeline not just for trade, but for enterprise. One of the most profound impacts has been in retail and small-scale commerce. With rural and peri-urban populations seeing more cash circulation, demand for goods from household items to mobile phones has surged. Small shops are transforming into formal businesses. Informal kiosks are now becoming part of registered microenterprises thanks to relaxed registration procedures and mobile tax platforms introduced by the government in mid-2024. The transport sector is another area catching fire. Improved road safety, government investment in highways, and new commercial routes connecting mining towns to agricultural zones have created a logistics boom. Not only are trucks moving goods faster, but there's a growing demand for drivers, mechanics, and warehouse staff. Urban youth who once migrated out of desperation are now returning to regional towns where logistics hubs offer employment and dignity. Even repair services and trades, long considered marginal, are finding a renaissance. With more machines in circulation, from tractors to or crushers to water pumps, there's a surge in demand for skilled workers who can maintain them. This has led to a rise in vocational training programs, both state-led and community-based, that are turning practical skills into profitable careers. At the heart of all this is a subtle but powerful evolution, the shift from a consumption-based informal sector to a value-generating formal economy. While informality still dominates in many areas, more Burkina are entering the tax net, accessing credit, registering businesses, and engaging with the state economically, not just politically. That's a massive cultural and structural shift, especially in a country where the shadow economy once dwarfed the official one. Technology is playing its part too, with better internet access spreading into rural zones and urban neighborhoods. Digital platforms for payments, business registration, and even supply chain coordination are becoming more accessible. The emergence of digital agriculture platforms, mobile trade networks, and e-commerce cooperatives means that the digital economy is no longer reserved for elites in Ouagadougou. It's expanding into the heart of the country. This rise of services is not merely a byproduct of mining or farming. It is becoming a self-propelling growth zone driven by population demand, urbanization, and the newfound spending power of both public institutions and private citizens. It's where economic dignity meets daily life, where a taxi ride, a refrigerator repair, or a cash transfer app is more than a service. It's a sign that the economy is finally touching the people. And yet behind all this momentum, one question remains. Can this complex structure hold? What are the risks lurking beneath the surface of this rising economy? Burkina Faso's economic surge has stunned even its closest observers. Mining is back under national control. Farmers are mechanizing. Cities are humming with commerce. On paper, it reads like a perfect case study of homegrown development. But the story isn't over and it isn't guaranteed. Behind the rising GDP and declining poverty lies structural pressures that could fracture the entire foundation if not managed with care. Every growth engine comes with friction. And now the friction points in Burkina Faso are beginning to emerge quietly but unmistakably. The first and most urgent is security. While the urban centers and mining corridors have seen relative calm, large swaths of northern and eastern Burkina Faso remain under threat from insurgent groups. Armed attacks on transport convoys, school closures due to insecurity, and the displacement of civilians have not ceased entirely. In some provinces, development projects remain suspended. The state is pushing back with both military deployments and civil outreach programs. But unless this challenge is decisively addressed, the risk is that economic growth becomes regionally uneven, breeding resentment and potential instability. The second challenge is investor uncertainty. While the nationalization of mining assets won popular support and improved fiscal returns, it has also made foreign investors more cautious. Some companies have postponed new exploration projects, awaiting further clarity on ownership rules and dispute resolution. Others are quietly negotiating terms for joint ventures under SOMIB's oversight. Burkina Faso must now strike a delicate balance, maintaining sovereignty without discouraging innovation and external capital. One misstep could dry up technology transfers and long-term investment, which the sector still needs. Then there's the issue of institutional capacity. Rapid decentralization of funds and responsibilities, especially in agriculture and services, has put enormous pressure on local governments. Many district offices are now managing budgets 10 times larger than what they handled just 3 years ago. With this scale-up comes the risk of mismanagement, corruption, or simply overwhelmed civil servants. While the state has launched transparency tools and audits, systems take time to mature. If institutions failed to keep pace with economic expectations, public trust could falter, and with it the political capital that made this transformation possible. A more subtle risk is climate volatility. 2024 was a year of good rainfall and stable seasons, but that's not a guarantee for the years ahead. Burkina Faso remains in the Sahel, one of the world's most climate-vulnerable regions. The expansion of mechanized farming and land reclamation is a remarkable achievement, but it depends heavily on water access, soil quality, and predictable weather. The country's investment in irrigation and seed resilience is commendable, but it may not be enough if global warming accelerates further. A climate shock, even for one season, could derail food security gains and stress public resources. Finally, there's the question of geopolitical alignment. Burkina Faso's pivot away from Western-led aid frameworks and its embrace of national control has created a new identity, one that resonates domestically but may raise tensions abroad. Multilateral institutions, donor states, and diplomatic partners are watching closely. The country is now walking a tightrope, asserting independence while needing to maintain strategic relationships that provide critical imports, defense cooperation, and infrastructure financing. And yet, despite these risks, something in Burkina Faso feels different. The reforms are not slogans. The results are tangible. The citizens, especially youth and rural populations, are not passive recipients of development. They're participants, builders, voters, entrepreneurs. If a nation can hold its line by stabilizing security, strengthening its institutions, and weatherproofing its economic engines, it may just pull off the unthinkable, transforming a once exploited economy into a self-funded, citizen-driven, and resilient model for Africa. So, the question is no longer whether Burkina Faso is rising. The real question is, can anything stop it now? Do you think it is stoppable? Can anyone cease it? Let us know in the comments section. Is it tangible? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.